right, we are live, the Savage Watermen podcast. Today, I got a good friend. He's been training with me, or I've been training through under him. I don't know, about 6, 7 years now. But this is Christopher Newton. Hello, Chris. How you doing?
There, how are you?
I am good. I know a lot about where you came from and your fighting skills, but why don't you go ahead and start where you came from, or kind of a little bit about yourself and about your fighting background.
All right. So I originally born in Pittsburgh, so I came from a kind of a little bit of a, I guess we'd say a harder place back in the '70s, and so it was always pretty aggressive from a society standpoint. Father was a Vietnam vet. All my friends were, kind of dads worked in steel mills and pretty much blue collar laborers, and so we always had kind of a little rougher upbringing, not dangerous or anything like that, but just pretty hard people. And then so in my younger years was all football, baseball, and I started wrestling when I was in 4th grade, and played sports all through high school. Got into college, moved to Florida with my family, and just it wasn't going to keep on playing those sports, but I needed to compete, and so I got into actually Taekwondo was my first arts. Did it for like 6 months, and I met a guy that did Chinese Kempo. Started doing that kind of stuff, which was kind of back then was kind of gritty, and then after that, morphed into American Kempo. I got into some Jeet Kune Do, studied some of the Filipino arts of Kali and Arnis and Eskrima, and then met some people, got on a pro karate circuits, which was all point fighting, and which was great for speed and accuracy and all that kind of stuff, but it did lack some things, so you weren't doing, wasn't continuous. And so then I found a promoter. The guy somebody approached me about doing some Muay Thai derbies. It was a winner take all, stay on, single elimination type thing. Got into that, and then perpetuated my Muay Thai career. Actually, I fought some kickboxing years before that, just some amateur American kickboxing where you get the kick waist and above. But then the Muay Thai was like, oh, this is everything, Yeah. And these guys so got into that, and that lasted about a year and a half, almost 2 years, 8 fights, and then I was done. But I really wanted to do it, not to win a championship or anything, but I wanted to do it so I could get in and teach and feel good about what I teach. From a self-defense standpoint, I was always really interested in self-defense. But if you don't, you've got a couple different ways to go with this. You can go into the military and get into some combat. You could self-induce yourself into some nasty, go down to downtown Chicago or Detroit and get in some nasty situations where you've got some really bad neighborhoods that you want to try to survive in, which I wouldn't suggest, right? Or you get in a ring. So one of those three are going to make you a hard man, but you have to test yourself, And to me, if you're going to teach self-defense, you should have some sort of tactical training, and that meaning training in order to make yourself give yourself an advantage over your opponent, whatever your opponent may be. Yeah. So for a lot of the people that I teach now, which is this kind of come full circle, right? What I teach now, I can confidently say that, hey, I've stood into the fire, and I've been, and by the way, not only does the fights take a lot, but it's the training, as you well know, right? It's the twice a week of sparring. It's the 3 days a week of pad work. It's all the prep that you have to go through. That qualified me to do more and more things, which then perpetuated into me training with in the camps of some pro fighters, MMA fighters. So then I got the roll, I got the clinch, I got to do all the really good stuff and really train hard, and it was pretty cool. I've been in there with I've been just from friends of friends who were looking for bodies to work with. I've been in the on the mat with some judo guys, some actual Olympic judo players. Lot of black belt jujitsu guys who would tap me out in 5 times in 5 minutes. Uh, but that's how you learn. That's how I learned coming up. So yeah. So it was the sport. I made sure, because I love the art of martial arts. I loved all the intricacies and the details. But the more you learn, the more you realize, hey, this might not really be all that applicable to the show. So, but there are certain things that you do get that from a traditional martial arts, it's extremely important. Then you take that sport of the MMA, the Muay Thai, the Jiu-Jitsu, the Judo, and you can morph that and marry that into the traditional, and now you've got a whole nother animal. Then I moved out here to California, and that was when I met Bo DeRocher and in Krav Maga, and the Krav was a whole nother animal. And I used to know Krav Maga as kind of a sloppy way of doing things, cutting corners. That's what we used to think, right? Whenever we did traditional martial art.
Yeah.
But in a sense, though, the simplicity of it, although some practitioners and some instructors, in my opinion, just like anything else in this world, don't really do it well. But we can say that about people who make pizza and people who sell insurance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody, the cream of the crop is up here, and then there's everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's my philosophy on it. So, but if you could take that, the Krav Maga principles are so important, and is so effective. One of the main reasons I went into Krav was to learn gun defense. I wanted every traditional martial art I ever learned. Didn't know how to address a gun, just didn't. And I even went to some commando stuff, some guys who were teaching, right out of the military, teaching gun, and I was like, it just doesn't feel right for me.
Yeah.
And they thought they had the answers, but then I got into Krav Maga because I heard that they had certain ways of doing things, and I was right. Krav Maga gun techniques, spot on. I mean, even though I didn't have a reference point I had reference points from situations that that I had been in, and then I can only use my imagination to say, hey, well, this could work and this won't, because that's kind of what you do when you start creating in martial art. But it was hard for me to get it first, to get rid of the bad, I shouldn't say the bad habits, but the habits I had already been, cultivating through the years.
Yeah.
But man, as soon as you learn that sense, it was like, whoa, this is a whole nother animal. And then the thing that made it so good with Krav Maga for me is that it was all about principles. So it was like, well, if it works for this, that same principle is going to work for this. So if it's gun to the head, you might use different body parts, you might move a different way, but you use that same principle for a gun to the back.
Yeah.
Right. And ambushes, right? I'm being ambushed. It's going to be different than if I'm in a sparring situation. So that boxer or that MMA fighter, yeah, they're really, really good standing toe to toe. But then you start putting knife, gun, multiple attackers, somebody jumping out of a bush, they're going to have great tools once they can recover. But can they recover from that initial attack? Where whenever we are looking at Krav Maga, we're dealing with that initial ambush. Then
hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you could take it, so then if you could take that, you say, well, the MMA fighters is going to be the epitome of a fighter.
Yeah.
If you could take, and then you take that Krav Maga, which is going to give you such great technique for that initial reaction. Let's take our instinct of putting our hands up and getting out of the way of something, but then engineer that in a Krav Maga way, then take that and and then attach it to the MMA fighter. You've got like that. That's it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Krav Maga just relies on that Krav Maga principle, but they don't really train from a MMA standpoint, which is the ultimate fighter, right? This is that guy that can handle the ground, handle the clinch, handle the striking, kicking, and punching.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think it's better for a guy, say somebody walks in off the street, wants to know Krav, is it better to have the background of every other discipline, or do you want to mold everything fresh into that Krav student?
no, I think they're gonna. You got to do whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
So, if Krav Maga instructor, we're gonna have everything come at us, every different discipline to no discipline at all, to somebody that's never even done a push up in their life, and then to an athlete who might be, an elite athlete, maybe an ex football player or something, right? Um, yes, it's always better to. So it's always better to be an athlete. It's always better to be. There's no way you can take somebody who's an athlete and has somebody that's never done athletics ever, train them the same exact way, and say that they're going to come out equal. They're just not.
Yeah.
That athlete is quicker. They're going to have better coordination, more power, more strength, more speed, because they've been doing it for so long. Right?
But do they take any, and not that any one discipline has bad habits, but like say boxers, come in there, keeping tight, that could just utilize, and you can train them, okay, shelling. So it's probably better. Right. Is there one background that you prefer? Like if you could have the perfect Krav student, would it be from a boxing background, a Muay Thai background, Taekwondo? What would make for you the best Krav student to work with that comes in and says, Chris, teach me Krav? What would you say? What?
MMA. Yeah. MMA, the guy that
all
has
of
it all. Yeah.
That's a perfect world, right? How many guys go in there and say, like,
yeah,
like you said, there's people who walk in, never do a push-up, but yeah, I think, all around is what you're saying.
Yeah, MMA, the MMA trained fighter. And now it doesn't mean he's got to have a UFC background. It could be just, maybe he just, he went, that's the beautiful thing of like some of these MMA studios out there. They are training, they give every discipline, right? Not from a traditional standpoint, from a sport perspective. So they're giving them all these attributes to develop. And that's the great thing. So if you could take that MMA school and just put some Krav Maga in there, I mean, that's because the Krav, as is all about those principles. Yeah. And we really don't care so much about if I throw an elbow or a knee or poke him in the eye before I kick him in the groin or vice versa. It's all about feel, right? I mean, Bruce was one of the greatest martial arts known to man, right? And I mean, he developed his own style, Jeet Kune Do, way of the intercepting fist, which basically is just saying, hey, look, if somebody's coming at you, break that weapon and destroy them.
Yeah.
so it's in such a sense, right? And Krav Maga has a lot of that as well. Attack the attack, go after. We'll always move forward. Backing up, cowering away, covering up isn't going to get you very far. So you take like a boxer, for example, So myself, I boxed. I was trying to calculate how many rounds I've ever done in my life. And I was doing the math, and it was over 20,000 rounds that I've been training. Because of the years, the years that I spent doing it, and the amount of rounds that I did each session, just in the ring alone.
Yeah.
Right. Over those, I guess it would be almost 25 years of doing that alone. So with that type of, one thing that developed in me was obviously not getting afraid of being hit. I don't have fear of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I start fighting well until I do get hit. Now it's also learning not to be stupid, and take too many punches, because there were certain days where I might have done that and then I didn't feel good for a couple days. You know what I mean? So you start to learn through survival instinct, like, hey, I got to make sure I'm defending well. Otherwise, I'm going to have a headache for days, or I'm going to start forgetting things, or I'm not going to be able to talk.
Yeah.
So, and it's usually temporary, right? You might have a bad session, and you just got your ass handed to you, and you really feel punchy, as they call it, for a couple of days, but then it goes away. But then you do that again. Okay, so that neck, but I guarantee you. So if I would spar on Tuesday, on Thursday, I was a lot more defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
even sparring you, I could say I've been punching numerous times. I come out of there, and I think sparring you, I had a different way than sparring our buddy Omar. And Omar got pissed. He's like, I can't get you anymore. Cause I'm like, okay, I'm done being punchy after. I'd have a headache all day after sparring. And I changed my tactics. I would punch and, stick and move, stick and move. And Omar's like, damn it, I can't get you anymore. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm not getting hit in the head anymore. So yeah, and that's what I love about it. You learn every day. I was sparring with you. One, you never got tired. I think our record is sparring 12 rounds. And I think I was dying at 7, and you're like, get in here, keep going. So you are a machine. And I 100% believe the 20,000 rounds, because you're probably the toughest dude I've sparred. And I've sparred a lot of guys in camps and stuff, going to fights. And just when I think you figured you out, boom, you kicked me in the back of the head.
Yeah.
So what would you say? And there's always the argument of what discipline's better. Obviously, that's why the UFC got started. But when people say Krav is not realistic in a fight, or Krav isn't really a martial art, or Krav, you've heard it all too. Everybody always says Krav isn't the real deal. Learn jiu-jitsu, learn this and this and that. Krav isn't going to work. I'm sure you've had that discussion as well. I always get it. And what are your thoughts about that?
Um, there's a bunch of layers to that. I'll start with the first layer at the bottom, and I would say I agree to some of the things that they say, because of some of the things I see on YouTube, on Instagram. And I see the way some people are doing Krav Maga, and it just looks like a joke.
Yeah.
Now, I could also say that about a lot of other things, though, right? Jiu-jitsu is one thing you can't really say that about. I've never really seen a bad jiu-jitsu instructor.
Yeah.
You either are, it's such a, you prove it, right? It's there. You're there or you're not. I've never really seen a bad boxing instructor. You know what I mean? You just don't last. It's survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
The martial arts has this weird stigma where people can claim that there's something that they're not, and they have this mystical thing about them. They put on a black belt, and everybody bows to them, and everybody thinks they're amazing. Now, some of them may be, so prove it, right? And they can, well, I can't prove it because I can't chop you in the throat and then you live. So, okay, agreed. But could you be able to chop me in the throat or poke me in the eye if we were in a fight situation? So the best way to do that is get in the ring, put some gloves on, and if you can hit me with your jab, then that means you could probably hit me with a finger shot.
Yeah.
Right. So, but a lot of them won't even get in the ring. They don't have a good jab. They don't have a good cross. So once again, it goes back to the sport. You know, nobody has better hands than boxing. Nobody's better on the ground than jiu-jitsu. Nobody has a better clinch game than Muay Thai. You know, or we'll say Muay Thai, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu. They're all they have a little bit different nuances to them, but all three of those are really good with the clinch, right?
Yeah.
There's no other martial art. No Shotokan, no Ishinru, no Kung Fu that's going to match that caliber of player in those disciplines. So I would say that if I was speaking from a sport martial art, that I would probably, I'd be apt to say, yeah, I see that Krav Maga, what they're doing there on that YouTube channel, and it looks like shit.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way that's just fake, right? But the principles of Krav Maga are not BS. The principles of Krav Maga are amazing, right? So my point is, if you could take an MMA trainer or thereof, whether it's maybe it's a Muay Thai, maybe it's a Jiu-Jitsu, whatever, and you teach that person Krav Maga to teach other people, now you've got a dangerous person.
Yeah.
Because you can never understand contact without contact, right? You just can't.
Yeah.
No way. You've never been punched in the face before. You're not gonna you're not gonna know. If anybody that ever watches this or whoever knows me sees my Instagram, you'll see. I mean, even I'll have 120-pound girls. I take them to the ground. I lay on them. I make them work to get out of there. Sometimes they panic. Sometimes at first they cry. I don't let them up. And I take the risk of them saying, I never want to see you again.
Yeah.
Hey, but if I don't do that to you now, everything that I'm teaching you from here on is fake. You're never gonna. I can teach you how to shrimp. I can teach you how to pull guard. I can teach you all this stuff. But if I don't lay on you and put pressure on you and make you feel really bad and really panicky, you're never gonna know. If somebody does that out in the street, you're done. You're gonna freeze. You're gonna panic. You're gonna have a panic attack, and you're gonna probably pass out. And then you're gonna end up in somebody's trunk of somebody's car, and then hanging from a meat hook in their garage. Insane psychopath, right?
Yeah.
They have to experience that, you know. And if I'm sparring with them, I'll pop them in the face. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Obviously, I'm not gonna knock them out, but I'm gonna make them feel what that feels like, and that's what it does. You go down the street to King's MMA, or you go to any of these MMA spots. You're not gonna go in there and just be like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to be touched.
Yeah.
They're gonna laugh at you. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Right. So
well, speaking of that, well, first off, how many of those people come back, like those girls? Because I know you have a big,
all of them.
Yeah,
all of them.
Yeah.
Everyone. And by the way, I've had a couple guys kind of get a little panicky too, and it makes us and you know what? It's the same reaction every single time. At first, don't know their mind's gone, right? They're in the shock. They feel they are hyperventilating and such. Give them 5 minutes, and they're like, "I'm really upset at myself for that.
Yeah.
I'm really pissed. Okay, let's do this again." And then the second time, every single time, the second time, they only panic once.
Yeah.
They never. It's that first initial one. It's very interesting. And after that, but by the way, I also give them the information they need to get out of those situations.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I don't give them to them first. I'll just take them down and I'll say, I want to, because a lot of them think too, a lot of people think that they're strong. I'm in shape. I work out. I can get out of this. You can't hurt. Okay, let me show you. And then they can't. They're like, holy shit, I never realized what that would feel like. They assume that they would just be able to get up. They're on their back and they can just get up. They'll push the guy off and they'll get up.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah. On another podcast I had, the guy said, I said, what would you do? What would you do if somebody grabbed your hat? And he goes, oh, I'd go crazy strength on him. I'd go wild. I said, well, how do you know? Well, I just know me. Well, and then when we talked about, well, if you've never been punched in the face, it's exactly what you just said. If you've never been punched in the face, you might curl up in a fetal position and start going, my hat, I needed to buy a new hat. But until you got punched in the face, you don't know. Your game plan that you replay in your head, and if you've never trained for it, is a lot different than just thinking. And there's so many people out there that watch UFC and go, I can go do a UFC fight now, and go to their local gym, get tossed and rolled up, and they never come back. But the ones that do, obviously, are the ones who like to be, put in uncomfortable positions. Like me, I started my whole MMA career by going to the gym, thinking I was the badass. I was all big and muscly, and I was like, oh, nothing they could do to me I'm gonna power through everybody. I got tied up like a pretzel numerous times. I got humbled, and I was hooked, and that was over 20 years ago. So what would you say right now, like you brought up King's MMA and the gyms like that, what would you say if somebody wanted to go to a gym or even wanted to go to what's good to look for in a gym or a personal trainer? What should they be looking for if they want to learn fighting, if they want to get in better shape? Like what's the couple like bullet points that you would say to look for in a fresh person right off the street?
Yeah, so I would say, and it kind of ties into what was just starting with that layer that I was talking about with when you asked me about people who say Krav Maga is BS, and I say it's BS to where a lot of the stuff I see happening out there. Obviously, I'm a Krav Maga, love it. My instructor, Bo, he's amazing. Um, but so there, if it's done right, to me, it's gold.
Yeah.
And I could take any MMA guy, even give me a pro MMA UFC fighter, and I will show him something that he doesn't know right now about self defense.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna show him anything about the ring. Maybe I could. I have some ring tricks that I did from old school. You know, us old school players, man. We have some stuff under our sleeve that's been forgotten over.
Yeah.
But but for the most part, you know, those guys are just experienced in that realm. Uh, but I could show them something about self defense that they never thought of. I could give them something about knife, gun, or multiple attackers that they would not have thought of. Because remember, a lot of information that is passed on, if you think about how we learn, it's there. Like if I were to tell you, and I've done this many times with you, right? We'll think of the shell off of a choke, right? I choke you, you do your shell, and you're like, oh, wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I would have pulled that choke away, but I didn't think that that would. And now you do. You're like, yeah, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
If you were not smart of knowing that, it just needs to be brought to your conscience. And once it's brought to
yeah,
there,
that's the hardest part for me, because there's obviously steps to teach it. In my mind, I was thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. But then when you just say, hey, it's common sense, like when this happens, that's the way I had to change my mindset, because I had the MMA background, but, and there's test involved in Krav, obviously. I was so worried about not doing step 4 or 5. And then I asked you, and you're like, did you get out of the move? That's all that is important. And that's why I like the way you train. You train the way my mind works. Like, hey, if step 5 doesn't work, you still get out of the position, fight back and attack the attacker. And that's why if anybody wants to do Krav, I highly recommend Chris. But that was one of my things going into Krav, is the steps. There's, hey, do this, do that, do that, do that. My mind works, hey, get out of the situation any way you can, and these steps help you to do that. So I think that's a great way to, once you think about it and slow things down, it's like, hey, it's common, it makes sense to do all these things. So I think that's huge to just slow it down.
And it's a cognitive process. So if you look at, if you were to try, let's say I was to try to teach you calculus, there's nothing natural about calculus, right? It's not something that we have basic knowledge of. It has to be, it's almost like manufactured information that has to be downloaded into somebody's brain.
Yeah.
Because it's not just there. It's not in our natural world. Yeah. But if I were to do a movement, a punch, or let's say shelling, like we're talking about, if I were to teach you that, if I told you to raise your arm over your head and grab the back of your head, you could do that and relate to it. Yeah. It's already DNA to know how to move your body. You just didn't think to do that. So all as a Krav Maga instructor or a martial arts instructor, all we're doing, even as a personal trainer, is teaching you how to use something you already have. Yeah. We're not manufacturing new material for you to drum up in your head. So, but it's not there as a natural instinct to do that, to think of that at that moment. So we have to engineer these processes into your subconscious. So the other thing is, what people have to realize is that true self-defense is not choreographed. And true self-defense, you're not gonna, more than likely, you're not gonna be like when we're in the studio, we're in the dojo, whatever. We're not gonna say, okay, you're gonna throw a punch at me, and that you're not gonna know what's coming. So you have to employ a counter, a defensive tactic, in order to defend yourself.
Yeah,
that's not gonna. That has to be ingrained in the subconscious. So the training is actually we're training to put that into our subconscious. So then it just comes out without having to think about it. One of the biggest problems I had in martial arts, and I had with it, and now Krav Maga over the last few years has even confirmed it for me, is that you don't need 5, 10, 20 different methods or techniques to handle one type of attack.
Yeah.
So like in American Kempo, we would have straight punch. Okay, and we'd have 5 different ways to attack, to defend the straight punch off the one side and 5 different off the other. Who needs that?
Yeah.
Because that's only the brain.
Yeah.
Problem one. You need one way. If I choke you, one way. If you bear hug me, one way. That's it. So therefore, that is you have a stimulus, and I react to that stimulus. Right? And that's it. There's no more. And if you start over complicating things, especially for the average person who doesn't train in an MMA studio or doesn't do it, it's not, think of bob and weave, right? Slipping. How many people are going to be able to slip a punch? I mean, really, unless you're a boxer. Why? Because boxers do it for a living. Yeah. But if you're not going to have the ability to slip a punch just like that and then counter with a left or right cross, left uppercut, left hook. You're not going to be able to do some beautiful combination off of a slip and then, come on, really? Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? We have to engineer something that can help them right away. So that's why Krav Maga is awesome. So if you take the principles of Krav Maga, simplicity, effectiveness, attack the attack, always moving forward, send your combatives, you practice your simple combatives, and then you want to escape or get you and your family to safety. Okay. And if you take that and then train in MMA fashion, where you're hitting the heavy bags, you're boxing, you're kickboxing, you're throwing kicks hard, everything's crush, hit hard, because in the street, you've got probably less than 20 seconds. If it's multiple attackers, it may be a melee for maybe a minute or two, but that's all you got. You're fighting for your life. So everything you put behind every single strike better be all you got. If I'm going to kick somebody in the groin, I'm going to lift them off the ground. That's everything I got. I'm leaving nothing behind, right? Yeah. But we have to train that way, and we have to be fit, which is another problem. So if fitness isn't involved, if somebody thinks they can just talk the whole time in your session and tell you about their stories of how they survived things and how badass they are, and then show you how to do a kick in the air and then say, okay, good session, then that would be a bad place to be, right? You need to be fit. So going into your question, if you walk into an MMA or I'm sorry, a fighting studio, whatever it may be, whether it's MMA or Krav Maga or what have you, or any martial art, if they're not emphasizing fitness, if they're not wearing your ass out, if they're not making you hit things. Now, I do believe in shadow boxing. I do believe in technique, but that's your homework. I tell my people, look, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to attack you. I'm going to teach you what to do. These are your movements, but you need to go home and practice these in the mirror. But don't waste my time doing that.
Yeah.
Right? You need to have this down. So whenever I do come at you in our next session, you got it. So I give you homework. I'm like the university. You have to do your homework. So if I walked into a studio and there was no contact, if the trainer talked too much about himself, how badass he is, and all the stories, and if there wasn't enough pad hitting, wasn't enough sweating, then I would be out. I would say it'd be no good. If they didn't believe in boxing, if they didn't believe in kickboxing, if they didn't believe in jiu-jitsu, I've had I shouldn't say many, but I've had a few conversations with some very high up individuals in the martial arts. And this was a while ago, but within the last 10 years. And they'll say, we don't need jujitsu. We'll never get taken down. Our hands are too good. So they actually believe their striking ability is so good they can never be taken down. So therefore, they don't need to know jujitsu.
Yeah. Well,
that's another red flag.
When I moved to San Clemente, I found a Krav studio, and I came from your guys' thing, and we would mix it up. Especially you, we'd have fight nights and all this stuff. And I said, "Well, what nights are your sparring sessions?" He says, "Oh, no, 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 we can't spar. We'd kill each other." I said, "Well, how do you do tests and stuff?" And he says, we have 3 2-hour seminars, and the instructors are around, and if you know what you're doing, then we pass you and elevate you." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you for your time, sir." And I moved on, and I joined an MMA studio out in San Clemente. So I 100% agree with you, and I probably regurgitate most. We've had 3 or 4 podcasts. What you're saying, because I think you've instilled it in my head, everything that I do, because you've been teaching me for so long. But yeah, I think if you're doing a disservice to anybody who walks in there and you don't get them fit and you don't hit them in the head, you don't get physical contact.
Well, like what I'm saying is basically it's like saying, well, here's a book of Krav Maga. Read it, and you'll be able to defend yourself.
Yeah,
Uh, right?
yeah,
It's impossible.
yeah.
Right?
Did you have any mentors, or who influenced you? I mean, you've been fighting, you've been in the fight game for so many years. Did you have people that mentored you, that you looked up to, that answered your questions, helped you do this and that along the way?
Oh yeah, yeah. Lots, lots. A lot of it is because, and I look back on it, I think, I was always, still am very inquisitive, and I'm definitely not afraid to debate.
Yeah,
Right. So when a lot of instructors, and as long as you don't come off as a smartass, but you're genuinely concerned and interested.
yeah,
I know me as an instructor, I'm like that. If somebody's really interested and they really have some questions, and whether they be in agreement or not of what I'm doing, I like that. And I think that most good instructors do. So I've had a few instructors that have done that, uh, that have kind of taken me under their wing. I've had some instructors that barely knew me, but I studied everything. I went to their seminars. I watched their videos. I would then go take their videos and I would practice on other people.
yeah,
Take somebody like Paul Vunak, for example, right? I trained with him a little bit, few seminars and such. He didn't really know me much or anything like that. Maybe to talk to me, that was about it. But I would not only do his seminars, but then I would go and I had bought a whole series of his videos, dozens of his videos, and I would just in my bedroom just work on them, right, my living room, whatever, and just work on all the different stuff that he was doing, and then I would go into the MMA studio, or the studios that I was training at the time, and when we're sparring, I'd work on it. I would do those things.
yeah,
So I was able to take stuff from other people and then try to implement it. Some things I was like, yeah, maybe not, but other things I was like, love this,
yeah,
right? Um, my uh, my previous instructor that in American Kempo. Once again, American Kempo was a little too traditional for me. Now, back then, I was all on board, right? I was able to. It was funny because you were able to separate it. You were able to separate and say, well, this is Kempo, and then this is Muay Thai, right? Or this is, I was, might do some stick sparring. And this was, even though you couldn't take Kempo and defend yourself against a boxer, like any of the techniques you could do, the boxer's going to beat the hell out of you.
yeah,
No chance. So, well, but I can block really well. Yeah, the boxer don't care. He's going to eat you up. It doesn't work, right? But the body mechanics, the rotation, the power that you get from your body, I felt that that's where Kempo made me that type of martial artist,
yeah,
right? But wise, when it comes to defense and everything, a little too choreographed, too kung fu-y, right? But my instructor there, which I got to second degree black belt, I was actually getting ready to test for my third when I actually moved to California. He was a great mentor of mine, Manny Reyes. Like I said, Paul Vunak. There's a gentleman in Miami, Courtney White, who great with Kali. So he was my Kali instructor. Learned so much about the knife with him. So much of what I train with the knife stuff is a lot of his material. And of course, I embellished and I work on. I always add to put my little signature on it. So yeah, there's been some, and then of course, Bo, Bo DeRocher,
Yeah.
who's my current mentor when it comes to the Krav Maga and such, and the modern. I almost like to say, because Krav Maga could be like, depending on how you define it. If you put yourself in Krav Maga, you're putting yourself with all the other people that are doing Krav Maga, which they may not be doing things that we may agree with,
Yeah.
right? A lot of it, I almost like to say, it's like modern self defense or modern combatives, where we're almost, because if you look at what Krav Maga was, it was just like a 6-week prep for the Israeli military,
Yeah.
right? Those guys were not doing what we're doing now. Like we're doing a lot of good stuff because we've added the MMA into it. We've added the jujitsu parts to it, right? We've added the understanding that, hey, there are people out there training right now in the MMA studios that if you got in an altercation with them, they would take you down and ground and pound you. They weren't thinking like that, right? They were when they developed Krav Maga in 1948. So it's all come further, and now when you take people like myself or Bo who have had other martial arts experiences, now we're bringing all our knowledge and putting it into some good use. So my Krav Maga has clinching, it has jujitsu, it has boxing, it has Muay Thai, all curriculum that I've learned. It has all that. Plus, it has our knife, our Kali curriculum, stick, all of it. Yeah, the influence of JKD, Jeet Kune Do, it's in there, right? So I put it, I add to it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue. Don't you and Bo have something coming up, don't you?
Yeah. So, and that's the other part, firearms, right? So for me, I've it's funny. I was with my mom not too long ago. We were looking through some photo albums. There's me shooting it looked like a 44 Magnum Ruger or something in the backyard in Pittsburgh. And I looked like I was like 4 years old. I grew up with around guns all my life. Nobody was. My uncle was a huge hunter. He still is. But guns have never been a taboo thing for me. But at the same time, my dad had come back from Vietnam, and he wasn't he wasn't a big I get he's seen enough of that. He wasn't like, hey, I want to carry guns and all that kind of stuff. But he
Yeah.
always had one. He always had one. I remember he carried underneath the car seat just in case anything. He had one in the bedroom. I knew not to touch it. We knew. I mean, it's just we were kind of smarter back then. I think sometimes. And uh, so I grew up with that. When I was 18, I got it. I had my own firearm and would carry it because I was bartending at that time. And I wouldn't take it into the bars, but I would have it in case somebody would follow me out or something. A bunch of dudes, I might need it because I was carrying a lot of cash or whatever. That was my dad's point behind it.
Yeah.
But the firearms had become when I moved to Miami. The firearms had become more of an interest to me. I was never really that good at it as far as the tactical training they do now, but I would go shoot and so on and so forth. Paper targets, yes. Then I came to California and met Bo, and the stuff that he's doing is phenomenal, right? The tactical uh, resources that we have from him, the knowledge, the tools, right? We're using simunitions. We've got the full Tony Blauer gear suits that we're working with. We're working from the draw. We're working from maybe the guy puts a gun on us. We do a takeaway, then we draw our own weapon and we go. We're working on knife, gun retention with a knife, right? We carry a knife with us too. We have our knife. The guy goes for our gun. Maybe he gets it. Somehow we're in a tussle. I got my knife to deploy if I need to because it'd be really bad if he got my gun, right? The thing is that so in 2020 there were, and this is a really strange thing to me because it's a big, how do they not know exactly, but they say between 6 to 8 million new gun owners.
Yeah.
So if you think about how many more people have guns on top of the people who already have guns, those people are not trained. If they're new gun owners, they have no idea,
Yeah.
right? And I remember when I wasn't trained, I was carrying a gun, but I wasn't trained, and I was pretty coordinated. I always liked archery, so I had a pretty good shot, but I was nothing. It was nothing. I didn't have any training when it comes to that stuff. So I look at these people and it's scary. It's like, man, we need to get, just for their own safety, but for other people's safety too. We need to get all these new gun owners trained. And we need to keep up, because it's a perishable skill. We need to keep up the training of the people who already have and own firearms.
Yeah.
There's people who keep it in their safe in their closet and haven't used it forever. And now they're like, oh, well, maybe with this civil unrest stuff going on, maybe we should keep it a little closer to us. So now they're starting to think, oh, maybe I need it. But guess what? Even though you've had it for 20 years, doesn't mean you know how to use it.
It's a false sense of
security. So we're doing a It is. So Bo he lives in Boise, Idaho. So he already has courses running every, I think it's almost like every 2 weeks, and he has different levels of courses: level 1, 2, 3, beginner, intermediate, advanced type stuff, rifle, shotgun, all that kind of stuff. And we're doing a seminar in Vegas on April 10th and 11th, and we're going to integrate Krav Maga into the firearms training. So this is going to be an advanced class. So everybody that's there already has their own firearm, and they already know what they're doing. And of course, anybody that wants to sign up, check in with me, and then we'll talk about it. And because we're not accepting everybody, because we don't want to spend an hour on trigger press. Yeah. We don't want to get everybody staying. We're going to review it first, but we want to go into the meat and potatoes of things. So we're going to be working on running and gunning. So firing with movement. We're working on gun retention. We have a portion of the course that's going to be in a shoot house, and this is at the Pro Gun Club in Las Vegas. They have their own dedicated shoot house where we'll be doing home invasion scenarios, room clearing, just good old fashioned Krav Maga, where you've got it. So we have some of these weapons with shooting rubber bullets and such that we got to disarm that. You get hit, and now about that. Now what you can and cannot do. Does this gun technique work or not?
Yeah.
That's why I'm confident that whenever I do a gun disarm from, I got a pretty good chance, because I've really never been hit by a ammunition. Yeah. Reaction, my action, but I've seen a lot of people get hit and they're just not fast enough. Yeah. But a lot of times I'm into it. So we want to bring that to light. So we want to, if basically by the end of this course, you're going to know where you stand in your self-defense practicality. You're going to know where you stand if you have a firearm, you're in the home with your wife and kids. Would you be able to save them? You might think everybody thinks they can, but could you really save them?
Yeah.
And we're not going to be even as mean probably as maybe some crazy criminal who's, so you'll know what you can do by the end of this course. Then you'll be able to say, hey, I'm happy. But if you got through this course and you're like, I'm happy with my performance, would you just want to stop that?
No.
Or would you say, I'm happy, that's awesome, but I got to keep on practicing because I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
And if you, of course, without getting shot, beat up, a little bit, or maybe you find out whenever you're working your firearms that you really don't, you can't do a tactical reload very quickly. Your speed of reloads are terrible. You don't even know what it is. Maybe you can't run, you can't move and hit the target while moving. That might be an issue. Most people probably never really have a firearm and actually move while firing. We're gonna be doing all that. So then you'll be able to figure it out. Then you'll have exercises to work on your own. So that's what we're bringing.
What date was that? April 10th and 11th?
April 10th. Definitely, yeah. Everybody's going to get in there on the 9th, which is a Friday. And everybody will meet and get comfortable with each other, and then on Saturday, Sunday, it's just going to be all day training, all day training.
So is it all at the gun club, or is it part of the fighting at a studio or something? It's all at the gun
All at
club.
the gun club.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have the shoot house dedicated to that. So we'll have some mats in there. And then of course we bring all our Krav Maga gear, pads, the suits, all that. We're gonna have everything rocking and rolling.
Nice.
And then so it'll be Saturday morning will be the range time. Saturday afternoon will be the shoot house, and then Sunday we'll be back on the range. And then we're also gonna be working on long gun to rifle to just pistol transition. So you'll have your AR, you'll be firing on that, then you'll transition to pistol if it was necessary.
So do you need your own AR too, as well?
If you want, so the AR is going to be an optional thing that the people are going to work with. If they don't want to work with the AR, that's fine. They don't have to. They can still run and gun with their own pistol. But if you bring an AR and you want to, then yeah, you can work. That's fine. And then we'll also be working on knife for that gun retention. So how to deploy your knife while working your firearm.
Well, I know we're probably about 1,000 miles away from each other, but I'm pumped up. You got me excited. I want to do it. So
Yeah, man, we're looking awesome.
yeah.
And there'll be more coming. Bo and I, that's one thing, we're pretty creative when he's just as creative as I am or more. And we've got some good stuff. I'm actually heading up there tomorrow, and I'm doing a gun course with him over the weekend on Saturday. And I guess again, he has them like every other weekend, but then the 26th of March, going up there for a night shoot. So we're gonna have daytime rifle, and then nighttime we're going pistol with dedicated light, and then working light on our range. So that's gonna be fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's coming up in April. But if somebody wanted to reach out to you and learn about personal training or learn about Krav, I know you have the most, I don't know, well-rounded. When I first met Chris, he's like, I'm not going to teach you how to just do a bunch of curls and everything. Everybody knows how to do curls. You have a very, I don't even know what you call it, a variety of different methods that you use. How would people reach out to you to use you as a personal trainer, or even talk to you, or get some advice, or just, learn more?
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah. So as far as the personal training goes, I do a lot of different, I like to call it tactical fitness, where we're working towards a goal of making ourselves move better under stress. And so there's a lot of kettlebell work. I'm a kettlebell instructor, strong first kettlebell instructor. Usually if I do something, I really take it seriously. I'm not big on doing things just because it's different and fun and circus-like. So to me, the kettlebell work, and then a lot of flow, which I call flow, which is groundwork. A lot of ground engagement, getting up and down off the ground, and then while on the ground, kind of there are a lot of jujitsu type flows that we work with. That's almost, you can just say calisthenics, but in a different way. So yeah, so I do a lot of that type of work, and then of course I integrate the Krav Maga with that. Yeah. Krav Maga, as much as I'm sure you can attest to this, I give a lot of information as far as how to live daily life from a self-defense point. And a lot of times, we talk about self-defense. Self-defense starts from just avoidance, right? Number one rule of self-defense is avoidance. Avoid bad situations. Don't be there. And you don't want no trouble, stay away. Yeah. But if something were to happen, then we go into our awareness, which again, a lot of people don't have that. So I do teach these awareness things, and we do this in drills, which is again another Krav Maga attribute that I absolutely love that makes it so unique, is that we're not just doing katas, we're not just kicking and punching, we're not just in the sport of MMA beating each other up. We are doing that, but we're not just doing that.
Yeah.
So we're talking about EDC, everyday carry. Josh, what do you carry every day? Right now, probably just flip flops and a surfboard.
Yeah, very, very accurate. Very accurate.
Right? But what do you carry on a daily? Do you carry a weapon? Do you carry whether it's a gun, a knife, a tactical pen, pepper spray? What are you carrying? On top of that, how do you set up your home? Do you have drop points in your home where you're going to drop back? So we got to drop back to this area. Does your family know what to do? We hear a window breaking downstairs. What's the plan of action? Are we just going to run around and not like a circus and not know what to do and start screaming?
Yeah.
Or do we drop back to, let's say, this hallway, into the bedroom, into the bathroom? We barricade the door. I got my weapon. We have our phone. We call the police. We sit with my weapon, with my family, and we wait for the cavalry. Right. So, is there a plan? Or are the kids on the other side of the home? They're screaming over there. The wife's yelling at you. You're trying to get your gun out of your safe that you forget the code to. You're fumbling around. Now you don't have your ammo loaded. By that time, bad guys are already upstairs and they're doing bad things. Right. So
I think it's just like getting hit in the face. If you've never gotten hit in the face, you don't know how you act until you get hit. Same thing with your training. Repetitiveness. Do it. Go to the home. Do all that stuff, because if you do it, if somebody does break in and you haven't done it, and you're like, oh, I was going to do it next year. That was my New Year's resolution. It's too late, right? You gotta practice this stuff now. I think you taught me, or Krav, get a safe word with my kid and my wife when we're walking around, and not so much dangerous areas, but places where you need to be on point more. So I think
yes,
what Chris has done, he's always my encyclopedia of fighting. I've actually broke up a fight with a dad and family, and first thing I thought of, what would Chris have done? So I think you came to my house the next night or something. We trained, and I was like, Chris, I think I failed. What should I have done here? And it's just, you are the most knowledgeable person I know about fighting. And so if you ever want to train, you ever want to get fit and learn how to defend yourself, Chris, the man. What's your Instagram is Guard Dog Athletics?
Athletic, yeah. No S on it. Guard Dog Athletic, Instagram. Same thing on YouTube. If you want to get, I'm not with all that tech savvy, so I'm just starting to. People are pushing me into doing more. So I just got my YouTube channel up. There's probably like 5 videos on there right now. It'll be a lot more coming. I got to put myself in the mindset of, okay, I was never one for. If I filmed all the stuff I've ever done, my God, I'd have so much stuff. But we never thought of filming stuff back then, right? When all my fighting and sparring and everything, we just, up until a couple years ago, we never thought, oh, let's video this.
I think you posted something on your Instagram when somebody had a flip phone with you in the ring sparring somebody.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I ever videotaped it. We had flip phones, and it's all grainy. I see it, but yeah. So I have Instagram and Facebook. Both are Guard Dog Athletic. You can contact me through there, and then I have a YouTube channel as well now. And upcoming will be on my new websites, and I'm going to do some online courses. Yeah, I don't know about the time frame on that because I have to get everything filmed and such, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, work in progress.
Yeah, and then basically, I'll be around going different places, doing seminars, workshops, programs. Right now, I'm in Las Vegas. I live in Las Vegas. I'm there half the time, half the week generally, so I can train people there. And then I'm in Orange County the other half of the week, where I have most of my clients now are there. And I also do Zoom sessions too. So I got people on Zoom that I've trained as well.
So basically, there's no excuse to reach out to Chris and not get trained by him, because, like I said, he's the baddest ass individual that I know, and I like to think I know a lot of tough guys, but Chris sets the bar even higher. So, well, Chris, I mean, you, like I said, you're an encyclopedia of fighting and information. I think we could do this for 2 or 3 hours, but I know you're a busy man, and I don't want to keep you too long. But thank you very much. I appreciate your time and everything you shared with us today. And yeah, when I get back to you always have an open policy to come out here to Cabo, and we can train. I can get you in the water, and but you can come out here. But when I get back in a month, I'll reach out to you, and we'll definitely get training. And hopefully I'm invited to that course coming up in April, and I'd love to be there.
No, you're invited. You better be there. Actually, I'd be really upset if you're not.
All right. Well, I'll be there. All right, brother. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, my man. Thank you. Thanks for talking.
Yeah. See you, brother.
Later.